and just mentioning our wonderful group of singers, I'm just going to read you something that was on the front of on the poster we sent out, because I think it's a nice introduction to who they are before they sing for us. The Fen Shanty Folk are an enthusiastic shanty group based in the landlocked village of Fen Stanton in Cambridgeshire. Taking inspiration from the brilliant harmonies of the likes of the Longest Johns and Kimber's Men, we sing shanties and sea songs and pretend we are closer to the sea than we actually are. So without further ado,
sailing over the Dogger Bank, I wasn't here to treat. The wind was blowing east northeast, we had to give a sheet. You should have seen us rally, the wind a blowing free, on the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby.
So watch her, trigger, she's a rock-a-doo-ba-doo. Give her a sheet, let her rip with the boys to pull her through. You should have seen us rally, the wind a blowing free, on the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby.
Our captain, he's a shangaroo, she likes a drop of good ale. Our first mate, he's a Ribston, and he's been in many a jail. Our third mate, he's a bushraker, the worst of all the crew. A scoundrel and a packet rat, and the son of a buckaroo.
So watch her, trigger, she's a rock-a-doo-ba-doo. Give her a sheet, let her rip with the boys to pull her through. You should have seen us rally, the wind a blowing free, on the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby.
So watch her, trigger, he's down the street she came, with high heels and painted toes, good Julie is on the game. She is one of those flash girls, can't she cut to shine? She can do a double shuffle on the Knickerbocker line.
So watch her, trigger, she's a rock-a-doo-ba-doo. Give her a sheet, let her rip with the boys to pull her through. You should have seen us rally, the wind a blowing free, on the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby. Now with the boys to make some noise when we get home from sea. We get quite drunk, we roll the floor, we'll have a jubilee. We get so drunk and full of beer, we roll along the floor. And when our money is all spent, we'll go to sea for more. So watch her, trigger, she's a rock-a-doo-ba-doo. Give her a sheet, let her rip with the boys to pull her through. You should have seen us rally, the wind a blowing free, on the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby. So watch her, trigger, she's a rock-a-doo-ba-doo. Give her a sheet, let her rip with the boys to pull her through. You should have seen us rally, the wind a blowing free, on the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby. On the passage from the Dogger Bank to Great Grimsby.
Usually the gentleman at the end does all the talking, but he's abdicated responsibility with some excuse of ill health. So it's down to me, and I'm not used to it, so forgive me. We are Fen Shanty. Thank you for the lovely introduction, and thank you for the invitation to come. You have your crib sheets. We will be expecting to hear you, because we need help. Okay. The song you just heard is called Dogger Bank.
Yeah, I didn't know you wanted to move it.
Oh my word, that's gone completely. It's thought to be an original shanty, but isn't documented particularly well. And it was what's that? It dates back to 1958 when it was revived and rewritten for a Norfolk singer and subsequently recorded. There's lots of terms in it that we don't know what they mean either, and you can't find it anywhere. Okay, so shanties. What are shanties? Shanties date back almost to probably to Greek and Roman times. They were in their heyday in the early 1800s, right up until the steamships came in. And they're used to set the rhythm to people working on board. Obviously, there's a lot of ropes, there's a lot of pulling, there's a lot of teamwork required. And so a shantyman would be nominated, and he was chosen for his seamanship, not his musical talent. Most of us have neither, but I'm not saying No. And the lyrics for them, that the shantyman would mostly make up, or they were passed down between crews. You know, a new crew would arrive and somebody would know something different and it would be sung. They reflect life on board, so most of the lyrics are hard. A lot of them are a bit raunchy, or some of them are very sentimental. Yeah, they've been away from home a long time. There are three main types of shanty. There's a short haul or short drag shanty, which is used for very short hauling processes. Then there's a halyard shanty, which is used for harder work and longer work. A halyard is the rope that pulls a sail up, and you would have however many people on a rope, and they would pull and gather and pull, and they needed that rhythm to be able to work together. So the shantyman would choose something that was the right length and the right pace for the job in hand. That was his skill, and he would make things up as he went along. And then the last kind is a windlass or a capstan shanty. Now, I don't know whether anybody knows anything about sailing ships, but particularly for pulling up an anchor, a capstan is a big drum in the just forward of the mainmast that they would post very long pieces of timber into, and then they would push on it. Of course, they all had to push together, and the capstan would wind this way to bring the anchor up mostly. And they had particular shanties for that because the pace was slightly different. Okay, there are some others, because they did have time of an evening, they would sit around and they would sing songs of the sea, you might call them. They're not particularly rhythm shanties, and they're called four-bitter songs mostly because they'd be at the front of the boat where they would gather to sing of an evening. And then we also sing some songs of the sea, anything that has the sea in it, and some working songs. So people, stevedores and slave songs.
Women
Women's songs. Yeah.
Waiting
But
women
yeah,
songs.
well, there will be, yes, some women waiting. For
Waiting women
yes,
songs.
this is true. So we've got a full range. They're not all just shanties, because otherwise it tends to be quite full on, because obviously they're all working songs. So we like to mix in some others that are a bit gentler and easy on the ear. So there we go. Our next song is?
The next one is Sugar in the Hold, which is thought to have originated in the late 19th century for loading steamships on the Mississippi River. As with so many shanties, the documented history, which only appears to be about 1924, the documented history of these things is often a lot later than the actual history. Nevertheless, it's clearly about dockside workers loading cotton. The first verse refers to screwing cotton. Apparently the cotton was screwed in tightly to the hold, and hold lying underneath the deck, and they wanted to get as much cargo on board as possible, hence packing it in really tightly. The only problem with this was that if the ship took on water, then the cotton would absorb it and swell, and that could lead to ships breaking up and sinking. So life on board a ship could be very dangerous, and not for all the reasons that you think. Sugar in the hold.
I wish I was in Mobile Bay, screwing cotton all other day, but I'm stowing sugar in the hole below, 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 below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Low, 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 low. The J.M. White, she's a new boat, stem to stern, she's mighty fine. Read any boat on the Newlands line, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey he cries out, keep the lava lit, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Low, 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 low. So I wish I was in Mobile Bay, screwing cotton all of the day. But I'm stowing sugar in the hole below, 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 below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hole below.
Well, the next shanty is called Sailing Down to Old Maui. Does anyone know where Maui is? Hawaii. So it's the other side of the world from Mobile, but it's the old whaling business when you had to go to the Arctic Sound, as they called it, off Kamchatka, off the east of Russia, which is horrible and cold and very, very dangerous. And then you got your whales into the hold, and you could sail down to old Maui and relax in the wonderful tropical sunlight and all the other delights of the Maui situation. So that's called Sailing Down to Old Maui.
It's a damn tough life, full of toil and strife, we whalemen undergo. And we don't give a damn when the whale is done, how hard the winds do blow. We're homeward bound from the Arctic Sound with a good ship taut and free. And we don't give a damn when we drink our rum with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, my boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we'll sail with the northerly gales through the ice and wind and rain. Them coconut fronds, them tropical lands, we soon shall see again. 6 hellish months have passed away on the Kamchatka Sea, but now we're bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down to old Maui, rolling down to old Maui, my boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we'll sail with the northerly gales towards our island home. Our mainmast sprung, our whaling done, we ain't got far to roam. Our stansail looms is carried away, what care we for that sound? A living gale is after us, thank God, we're homeward bound. Rolling down to old Maui, my boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down to old Maui. How soft the breeze through the island trees, now the ice is far astern. Them native maids, them tropical glades is awaiting our return. Even now their big brown eyes look out, hoping for a fine day to see. Our baggy sails running for the gals, rolling down to old Maui, rolling down to old Maui, my boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down to old Maui. Maui, rolling down to old Maui, my boys rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic round, rolling down to old Maui.
Right, well, just in case anybody's wondering what this business is all about, this is shanty speak for one more chorus. If anybody's singing it, yeah. So the next song we're going to do is called Rio Grande, and that's not a mistake because this isn't the River Rio, it's the Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. And it's a tune, this is a capstan or windlass shanty, and an outward bound song. So it's sung on the ships leaving the west coast of England and Wales and heading across to South America. Okay. That's about more to say about it really. It's not what is there. Oh, say was you ever in Rio Grande?
Away, you Rio,
It's there that the river brings down golden sand.
and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and away, boys, away. Away, you Rio, it's fairly well, my bonny young girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande.
It's farewell to you all, the girls of the town.
Away, you Rio,
You got a half pay for to keep you around.
and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and away, boys, away. Away, you Rio, it's fairly well, my bonny young girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande.
She's a deep water ship and a deep water crew.
Away, you Rio,
You can keep to the coast, but we're damned if we do.
and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and away, boys, away. Away, you Rio, it's fairly well, my bonny young girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande.
We were sick of the beach when our money was gone.
Away, you Rio,
And signing this packet to drive her along.
and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and away, boys, away. Away, you Rio, it's fairly well, my bonny young girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and away, boys, away. Away, you Rio, it's fairly well, my bonny young girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande.
Coming up now for one called Haul Away Joe. This is a sheet hauling shanty.
Oh, a sheet, I didn't mention sheets. Sheets and halyards are basically the two types of rope on the ship. The sheet is one used to control where the sail is, as opposed to a halyard that takes it to the top of the mast. So it's sheet hauling. The wind's shifting, you need to move the sails.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's it. And basically it sets the rhythm for the pull. So they probably pull on the last word of the refrain. So haul away, Joe. So some versions of this shanty contain up to 12 verses.
Ours is.
No, don't worry. Really, it just depends on the size of the sheet, the sail, and how long they need to pull for. There were other verses, mostly about the King of France or the girls of Gazeley. In other words, ladies of lesser virtue. These tended to be derogatory or filthy. So, not knowing our audience that well, we actually deleted them. Sorry.
Later.
Another time.
You don't?
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
fair
Off you go.
When I was just a little lad, me mother always told me, away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. But if I ever kissed a girl, my lips would grow away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold away together. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold for better weather. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. So first I had a Spanish girl, but she was fat and lazy. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. But now I got an Irish girl, and she drives me crazy. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold away together. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold for better weather. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. King Louis was the King of France before the Revolution. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. But then he got his head chopped off and he stole his constitution. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold away together. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold for better weather. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold for better weather. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe. Away, how? Hold away, we'll hold for better weather. Away, hold away, we'll hold away, Joe.
Okay, so the next one is a little bit more modern. It's called the Sailor's Prayer, and the verses and tune were written by a naval submarine veteran called Tom Lewis, actually as recently as the 1980s. However, the chorus probably dates back,
Sorry, Karen.
a couple of years, a couple of centuries. Typical tale, sailor in port, wages in his pocket, and he spends the lot on women and beer. Well, he does spend it wisely, hasn't he? The crimp referred to is the person who decoys a seaman from his ship and gains money by robbing and or forcing him on board another vessel in want of men. There are some actions in the chorus, so we hope you will join in with them. Sailor's
Get
Prayer.
them like we do.
Sailor's Prayer.
This dirty town has been my home since last sailing.
You can start again. No, you can start again.
This dirty town has been my home since last time I was sailing. But I can't stay another day, I'd sooner be a whaling. Oh, Lord above, send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them members. What sells that beer to sailors? They want me score and them ashore. Me money soon was flying with Julie upon my knee and in my ear a lying. Oh, Lord above, send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them members. What sells that beer to sailors? With me newfound friend, me money spent just as fast as winking. But when I makes to clear the slate, the landlord says, keep drinking. Oh, Lord above, send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them members. What sells that beer to sailors? With me money gone, me chosen born, Judy sent for leaving. Tomorrow morn sail forth. Sorry, it's one word.
Send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them that looks what sells bad beer to sailors.
When the crick comes round, I'll take his pound, and his hand I'll be shaking. Tomorrow morn sail for the Horn, just as dawn is breaking.
Oh Lord above, send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them that blokes what sells bad beer to sailors.
So for one last trip from port I'll ship, and next time I'll be swearing I'll settle down in my hometown. No more I'll go seafaring.
Oh Lord above, send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them that blokes what sells bad beer to sailors. Oh Lord above, send down a dove with beak as sharp as razors to cut the throats of them that blokes what sells bad beer to sailors.
So now we've got a Welsh song. Swansea Town, all about the town of Swansea and how attractive it is, and the man therein is to somebody who's long gone abroad. We've degendered it or regendered it, so it's not about a man at sea waiting for his woman, it's a woman at sea waiting for her man who's on the boat. So we thought we'd do it differently. John Davis, who wrote it, he also had it differently done for Sir Harry Seacombe, who insisted on a slightly different rendition. So we're following the Seacombe path in this way. Okay, this is Swansea Town.
I'm going home to Swansea Town, to where those waves of bramble, neath the sea town sky, where the seagulls fly, and as a girl I ramble.
I'm going home to Swansea Town. The day is almost dawning. I'm going back to the seaport sound. One lovely sea town morning.
Long years ago, I sailed away. The urge to roam came creeping. Somehow my heart got left behind with a boy who stood there weeping.
I'm going home to Swansea Town. The day is almost dawning. I'm going back to the seaport sound. One lovely sea town morning.
In the quiet hours of the nighttime watch, I dreamed him there beside me. I see his face, I feel his grace, and peace wells up inside me.
I'm going home to Swansea Town. The day is almost dawning. I'm going back to the seaport sound. One lovely sea